I hereby call this City Council meeting to order. We're in the City Hall Council Chambers at 10 West State Street. It is June 27th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. The mayor and the council welcome comments from the public during discussion of any of the agenda items. You are required to step to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and limit the time used to present your remarks to 3 minutes or less in order to give other people the opportunity to speak. All speakers shall speak clearly and direct their comments to the mayor and city council and not to any councilor specifically. It is at the direction of the mayor and the council to respond to specific questions and comments or have staff respond during the meeting. With that, if you would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's have a roll call.
Hoop.
Here.
Isom.
Here.
Kell.
Here.
Lottie-Hoff.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Okay, let's move on to mayor and council and administrator comments. Does anyone have anything to share? I have three things. Alan Thorson is here tonight to present years of service to a library member, and I want to take this opportunity to thank Alan for his 22 years of service to the Library Board of Trustees. Alan was asked by former Mayor Floyd Hartoon to serve on the library board and was the chairman of the board during the building process. We just want to say thank you for your years of service and dedication to the Marshalltown Public Library. Thank you, Alan. I would also like to mention that the governor of the state signed a new ATV law. And I think that there is some confusion to the public as far as what it means for cities of Marshalltown. I think it'd be a good idea to have that on a future agenda just to review so that everyone is clear what the rules state now. And I'm also going to remind people that we have a full agenda tonight. After your item, you do not have to stick around. It doesn't hurt our feelings a bit if you leave afterwards. We understand how everyone has a very full life. Thank you. Let's move on to years of service. Troy McGahee here.
For those of you, I want to kind of explain how much of a large role that is for the city.
Okay. Alan, would you like to do the library?
Representing Sarah Rosenblum, the library director, it's my privilege, along with Judy Lindholm, who is here from the library board as well, to present a recognition to Monica Rhodey Fulton for 20 years of service at the Marshalltown Public Library. Monica plays a vital role as a frontline reference services librarian. She helps community members on a daily basis, navigating difficult questions and assisting with technology needs. Monica is a favorite among the users of the library, and we want to thank Monica and congratulate her for her 20 years of service at the Marshalltown Public Library. So congratulations.
Thank you. Move on. All right. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda.
A motion for approval, Your Honor.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Okay, you can speed read through that one.
Approve the minutes for the June 13th meeting and a bill list in the amount of $1,510,511.29. Approve the May 2022 financial statements. Approval of the renewal applications for the state of Iowa retail cigarette, tobacco, nicotine, and vapor license through June 30th of 23 for the Food and Gas Mart at 613 North 3rd Avenue and Greenleaf Tobacco and Vape at 50 LaFriends Lane, Suite J. Accept the term date of June 30th, 2022 for Alan Thorson on the library board. Appoint Ashton Beek to the library board for a term of July 1st, 2022 to June 30th of 2023. Reappoint Judy Lindholm as the county representative to the library board, term being June 1st, 2022 to June 30th of 2028. Resolution approving a contract for the roadway maintenance services at the Iowa Highway 14 from Iowa Avenue to Woodland Street between the city of Marshalltown, Iowa, and the Iowa Department of Transportation, created pursuant to Chapter 28E.12 of the Iowa Code. Resolution approving a contract for roadway maintenance services at the Iowa Veterans Home between the city of Marshalltown, Iowa, and the Iowa Department of Transportation, created pursuant to Chapter 28E.12 of the Iowa Code. Resolution approving an affirmative fair housing policy for the city of Marshalltown. Resolution approving an equal opportunity policy statement for the city of Marshalltown. Resolution accepting and awarding the bid for providing salt and ice and snow control for the 22 to 23 fiscal year in the city of Marshalltown, Iowa, in the amount of $73.98 per ton. Resolution approving the city fee schedule. Resolution approving an agreement for services with the Animal Rescue League of Marshalltown. Resolution approving contract change order number 2 for the 12th Avenue Sidewalk Project number TRL 19002, a decrease in the amount of $38,083.46. Resolution approving the engineer's statement of completion and accepting Concrete Professionals 12th Avenue Sidewalk Project, being project number TRL 19002. Resolution approving an offer to buy and real estate acceptance with the Moyer Family Real Estate for the sale of property. Resolution approving an electric line easement with Interstate Power and Light Company at 17 East State Street. Resolution approving an electrical line easement with Interstate Power and Light Company at 213 East Main Street. Resolution approving an electrical line easement with Interstate Power and Light Company at 328 South 3rd Avenue. Resolution approving a temporary construction easement agreement with the Iowa River Hospice. Resolution amending a development agreement with Joseph and Janelle Carter for the $300,000 downtown housing grant. Resolution approving an amendment to the general administration and technical services contracts with Region 6 Resource Partners related to the CDBG grant 19-OT-005.
Thank you, Alicia. Okay, on to reports. We have the Impact Quarterly Update Report.
Good evening, David Hicks, YSS of Marshall County. Talk a little bit about Impact, Marshalltown Police and Community Team, where we have partnered social workers within the Marshalltown Police Department to help reduce some of those non-criminal social service-based calls. So January through May, we have responded to 102 total calls involving 231 people. And in addition to that, we are doing some significant follow-up visits beyond those initial calls. So we've done 182 follow-up visits that's yielded services to 359 people. So in year two, we're starting to track some new data. First year being a pilot project, we certainly learned by making some mistakes and figuring out what data works, what doesn't work. So part of our initial goal was to save officer time and resources. So one of the data points we're looking at now is the amount of officers who are returning to the field after making that initial call. So of those 102 calls, 84% of the officers were allowed to return to their duties following that initial call. Again, we wanted to increase officer time and resources out into the public when dealing with the criminal element and law enforcement. In addition, we wanted to meet people's needs. So of the 231 people we responded to, 94% of those we responded to are accepting of our services. So when Impact shows up, typically at a time of crisis, they're not slamming the door in our face. We are getting some headway. We're getting some progress. So again, we're tracking the primary and secondary reasons for our calls. We are still looking at mental health being the most common reason, running about 50% combined of that primary and secondary, followed by homelessness, and then we've seen an increase in juvenile issues and family conflict. So just a few examples I pulled off our data tracker in the past couple of weeks. A family conflict call, we had a parent so frustrated with their older teen's behaviors, she wanted the police to kick them out and someone to clean up the damage he did. So we provided some parent support, some actual accountability, provided some services in the home so they're not having to call the police to enforce rules at home. Domestic abuse, we're working with a young mom fleeing a domestic violence situation. We have provided some food assistance, worked with a partner, Access, providing some shelter. And then mental health, suicidal ideation. We had a single parent experiencing some suicidal ideation. We provided some immediate services to that young mom, prevented a trip to the ER, and really built up support and services around her with her family and friends and neighbors who could be of assistance. And then homelessness, certainly no easy issue there, but we have several families who are in a hotel for a few nights and a vehicle for a few nights. So we're getting them enrolled in our statewide coordinated housing entry system to get them on the list for housing, if not here in central Iowa, it could be other areas of the state, and that's often based on need. So again, these issues have very little to do with actual law enforcement, more social services. So we are happy to be providing services to the most in need. As I wrap up, a few staffing updates. Darcy Anderson, who's here, our first Impact advocate. Darcy's husband has taken a job in Illinois, and she wants to go with him. So after a quick argument, Darcy will be leaving the community. So we've interviewed a few applicants. I think we'll be making an offer to a person within another week or so. But Darcy's been a dedicated employee, not only to Impact, but with YSS for 15 years. She's worked with kids who've aged out of foster care, provided a lot of in-home supports, and with Impact, she was the first person to raise her hand when we came forward with an idea for social workers with the police department. She said, I want to do the job. I said, I haven't even written a job description yet. She says, I don't care. I want to do this. So thank you, Darcy, for your time and So lastly, our program director and senior director, Ryan Keller, a couple weeks ago, attended the National Second Responder Conference in North Carolina. So we had a lot of trainings and discussions that he's learned that he's kind of brought back to Marshalltown of other agencies like ours that are partnered with law enforcement across the country. We're one of the smallest communities who have a project like this. So we're working with some larger municipalities. So we're gonna peel off some ideas, see what works in other communities across the country, and continue to make Impact the best it can be, and to make Marshalltown proud of Marshalltown Police and Community Team. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, let's move on to resolutions.
Resolution allowing open containers on public ways for a community-wide event.
Motion to approve, Your Honor. Second.
And a second. Any questions or comments?
Got a question.
Okay.
I don't know who for. Maybe Mr. Jones can answer it. Does this mean that you can have an open container on any street all over town that on this particular event?
No, the area requested is just for the parking lot, the city parking lot at Church and First Street, and it'll be completely
This
barricaded.
community-wide event?
Well, the whole community is invited to attend the event, but it'll be held in the city parking lot on the public property.
Anything else? Anything from the public? Let's have roll call.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
No.
Isom.
Yes.
Okay.
Following up with that event, there's a motion to approve a change of premise for the Friends of the Orpheum's liquor license.
I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, Your Honor. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Anything else from the counselors?
Is this First Street instead of Avenue?
Yes, that is correct. Yes, that was an error on
I
the
believe they're
agenda.
moving their liquor license over to them.
Yes.
Anything from the public? Let's have roll call.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
No.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Okay.
Resolution approving the preliminary and final plat for the Seavers subdivision.
Motion to approve, Your Honor. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Michelle? Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Michelle? Thank you. Okay, let's do roll call.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to declare a public hearing open on a proposal to enter into a sewer agreement loan and disbursement agreement. Has there been any written comments?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments? Okay, can we have staff review on this? Forgot at 5:49.
Diana Steiner, Finance Director. This action allows borrowing of up to $13,135,000 for the water pollution control networks and digester project and the sanitary sewer CIP beach projects with a loan from the state revolving fund. This loan program tends to be lower interest rates than if the city bonded directly for the funds. Any questions?
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the public? And I declare the public hearing closed at 5:50 p.m. and move on to the resolution.
Resolution taking additional action on proposal to enter into a sewer revenue loan and disbursement agreement.
Move for approval, Your Honor. I'll second.
Motion in a second. Let's have roll call.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to declare the public hearing open at 5:50 PM on a proposal to enter into an essential purpose loan agreement. Have there been any written comments?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Any public comments? Okay. Is there any staff review for this?
So our 2017 bond was for the police and fire building construction. We have about $540,000 left remaining in that bond. There are still some projects that need to be completed. However, we would like to get this bond spent since it's coming up on its 5-year anniversary. So we would use the 2017 remaining amount for streets and sidewalks and other construction type projects which are considered essential corporate purpose. And then with the next agenda item as well, then we will take the 2021 bond and change its use back to general corporate purpose for anything that needs to be completed for the police and fire. So we're just swapping funds.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? Yes.
Diana, this is what we talked about earlier. It's just a paperwork, clean up some things, put finalization. There's no money being erroneously used or anything. It's just to close out the one bond. Exactly. I mean, is that correct? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Any other questions? Anything else from the public? Okay, I'm going to declare the public hearing closed at 5:52 PM. And we'll move on to the public hearing on a proposal to enter into a general purpose loan agreement at 5:52 PM. Have there been any written comments?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, are there any public comments? I believe our finance director just told you what both of these are all about here. Okay, council have any comments? Okay, I declare the public hearing closed at 5:53 PM and move on to the resolution.
Resolution taking additional action on proposal to enter into a general obligation loan agreements, combining loan agreements and repurposing bond proceeds.
Motion to approve, Your Honor.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Let's have roll call.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Okay, moving on, we're going to have a public hearing, declaring a public hearing open at 5:53 PM, providing for the conveyance and transfer of title of 2.43 acres of land to the Marshalltown YMCA. Have we had any written comments?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Okay.
I have a letter submitted from Cynthia and Craig Reglin of 1502 West Lincoln Way. This letter is in support of the sale of land to the Fisher Governor Foundation and the Community Y. The Fisher Community Center, now known as the Marshalltown Arts and Civic Center, and the Community Y have been an integral part of our community for decades. Both organizations enhance the quality of life in Marshalltown, and it makes perfect sense for the land to be acquired and maintained by these two worthy entities. As a longtime Marshalltown resident, I have many fond memories at the Y and the Fisher Community Center. Now my family and I look forward to sharing even more special times at the Lynn Creek District and showing off this area to visitors as well. We look forward to many and exciting improvements ahead. Thank you for serving our community and supporting this land sale.
Thank you, Alicia. Do we have anything from the staff on this?
Yes, Your Honor. So just because the items 6 and 7 are related, I'll kind of cover both at once. This has actually been a process that has started in 2017 with some initial emails with the Iowa Department of Transportation Right-of-Way Management Office, and finally got some steam underneath it in 2021. The DOT conveyed the entire area. I'll see if I can pull up the plat here. conveyed the entire area in the plat to the city of Marshalltown earlier this year. I believe it was recorded by the end of March for $74,000, which is what we paid. And then we ultimately worked with CGA to break out the two separate parcels, leaving what's the remainder of parcel C, or basically Lynn Creek, for the city. And so for the Marshalltown YMCA, it is a 2.43 acre parcel that is being sold for $30,000.
Okay, thank you. Does the council have any comments?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I would only wish to convey my very strong support not only for the transfer, but for the ongoing work that has gone into and continues to be put forth and for the Lynn Creek area. It will be a beacon of our progress in the future. I am so impressed by specifically the MAC board, but also the YMCA for their continuous generosity to the growth of Marshalltown and the vision that they have to make Marshalltown an even greater cultural center than it already is. This MAC board is volunteer-based and a fundraising machine, if you will, that has really worked on the ground to engage the people who care about our community and what comes here and what Marshalltown represents. I think that there is fantastic opportunities for all of our families to enjoy a central location of our community and to welcome visitors who wish to come to Marshalltown and celebrate culturally, from events, a wonderful museum, and a future of great offerings. So I thank the board for their work, and I'm enthusiastic about the work moving forward. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, you may.
I think what Councilman Walker said is very appropriate. I just question the amounts of money that we're selling these for. I know we paid $74,000 to the DOT for the property. I don't understand why the per acre price is different for the two entities. And I truly don't understand how we have set a precedent that we are using in a previous land sale to a citizen that fair market value is the county's assessed value. And now we're using a value by an out-of-town appraiser. I think, I'll just say my disagreement with the price is that we need to be consistent with how we charge people in town for property that the city owns. I don't disagree with the organizations, what they've done. I'm one of the few people here that actually remembers the old Y up on Church Street. Doug's nodding, he knows, swimming in the basement. So I remember when this was built, and it was a big thing. And I think it's great, but if we're charging a local resident, an assessed value, I think we need to wait for the county to do assessments on these and charge appropriately. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Gary. Anyone else have any comments? Speaking from a counselor position, I understand what you're saying, Gary. I really do. But in my opinion, anyway, if you look at the millions of dollars that the Fisher family has poured into the property, also the Horn family has poured millions of dollars in. This community has benefited from both sites for as long as I can remember. I don't remember the Church Street Y, but I do remember the other one going when I was a kid. And I think when you look at it from that perspective, and they're still paying what the DOT estimated the price would be worth, I think that is very well worth it. I think that if we would turn around and try and go per acre and try and make money on this, I think we kind of do a disservice to the people who donate quite a bit of money to this community that we've been very, very, very lucky to have. So I'm in agreement with this. That's my comment. Anything else from anyone? Okay, I'm going to declare this public hearing closed at 6:00 p.m. on the nose. And let's, do we have a resolution for that?
Yeah, resolution providing for the conveyance and transfer of title of 2.43 acres of land to the Marshalltown YMCA.
Move for approval. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the public? Let's have roll call.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to have a public hearing. I am calling declare a public hearing open at 6:01 p.m. This is the public hearing and resolution providing for the conveyance and transfer of title of 5.7 acres of land to the Fisher Governor Foundation. Do we have any written comments?
No additional comments.
Okay. Does anyone in the public have a comment?
These folks have worked incredibly hard. This is a huge project, and I am just absolutely honored to serve as their president. And I am just asking that you also take into consideration volunteers and the leadership that we have in this community that have stepped up, that's going to put Marshalltown on the map. So thank you much, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. Do we have any staff review for this?
Yes, Your Honor. I won't repeat what I repeated on the prior one, but this is for the sale of what would be the South Track Parcel D/C, 5.7 acres, for a sales price of $40,000.
Any council comments?
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, you may.
I just have a question for the board. I had the honor of meeting Bill Fisher. Why are we dropping the name? Why are we losing the history of just what was said, that family did so much for this town, and it's no longer called Fisher Controls or Fisher Governor back in the day. It's Emerson. Why are we taking the history away from the project?
Yes, please.
Question. And this is from Marshalltown, and I contacted the Fisher family and said, we intentionally want to put Marshalltown on the map. We want this to drive economic development. We want to make this a cultural statement and a gift, respecting the gift that was given to us. So I called the family and said, what do you think? And their response was that Bill Fisher gave this to the community because he knew it would drive economic development. He also knew that the cultural opportunities would help with recruiting people to work in Marshalltown. To be able to say that we have a collection of this magnitude within this community, and to be able to present that is going to generate people's interest. It's going to say something about our community. It's going to drive economic development all around. The family said that was Bill Fisher's wish. If changing the name and bringing in Marshalltown is going to accomplish that, change it. That is the intention that Bill Fisher gave this gift.
Thank you, Karen. Do we have any other council comments? Okay, I'm going to declare this public hearing closed at 6:05 p.m. and move on to the resolution.
Resolution providing for the conveyance and transfer of title for 5.7 acres of land to the Fisher Governor Foundation.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Let's have roll call.
Thompson,
No.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to call the public hearing open and resolution providing for the conveyance and transfer of title to 105 West Webster Street from the city of Marshalltown to Mario Alcocer at 6:05 p.m. Do we have any written comments?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Do we have any public comments? Jessica, do you have any staff review?
Yes, I do. This is just kind of the first step in conveying, or the second step in conveying to Mr. Alcocer for $1,000. This was a bid that we did, multiple lots. Unfortunately, we only received bids on 2, which are items 8 and 9 on the agenda.
Okay. Do we have any council comments? Anything else from the public? Okay, I'm going to declare this public hearing closed at 6:06 p.m. and move on to the resolution.
Resolution providing for the conveyance and transfer of title for 105 West Webster Street from the city of Marshalltown, Iowa to Mario Alcocer.
Motion to approve, Your Honor.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
I'm going to declare the public hearing open at 6:07 p.m. for the public hearing and resolution providing for the conveyance and transfer of title for 4 and 6 Grant Street from the city of Marshalltown, Iowa to KKH LLC. Do we have any written comments?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Do we have any public comments? Okay. Jessica, do you have anything for us?
Yes, just to mention that the sales price on this is $1,025, and that we will be moving 4 and 6 West Grant will be combined into one parcel that is 6 West Grant, and so we're working that through that with the county assessor and county auditor's office right now, and do anticipate getting this recorded as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you. Council have any comments? I declare this public hearing closed at 6:08 p.m. and move on to the resolution.
Resolution providing for the conveyance and transfer of the title of 4 and 6 West Grant Street from the city of Marshalltown, Iowa to KKH LLC.
Motion to approve, Your Honor.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other questions or comments? Let's have roll call.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Okay. I declare the public hearing open and resolution approving plan specifications, form of contract, cost for the Elks Park Improvement Project in the city of Marshalltown, Iowa, being project number PRK 21002 at 6:09 p.m. Do we have any written comments?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Do we have any public comments? Okay. Jeff, do you have something for us?
Just to reiterate, what was at the last council meeting, this is for the part of the project that involves the community development block grant. We have estimated $92,000, with $61,000 of that coming from the grant, and then matching it with 31, and will address the leveling out of the middle of the area of the park for better playability, accessibility, and lighting for the park.
Okay. Thank you. Council have any comments for Jeff? Anything from the public? Okay, I declare the public hearing closed at 6:09 p.m. and move on to the resolution.
Resolution approving plan specifications, form of contract, and cost for the Elks Park Improvement Project in the city of Marshalltown, Iowa, being project number PRK 21002.
Move for approval, Your Honor.
Second.
And a second. Any other questions or comments? Let's have roll call.
Lottie
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Okay, moving on to discussion items. Chapter 117, pawnbrokers and dealers. Mr. Tupper, Chief.
Good evening, Mike Tupper, Marshalltown Police Department. So, my colleagues, Captain Chris Jones and Lieutenant Kyle Stevenson, are going to come up and talk to you about the work that they've been putting in for the past few months, actually. And this is an important project for the police department. So, just to kind of kick off the discussion, I just wanted to share a couple thoughts. Now, okay, is that better?
Yeah.
It feels like this is so far away from the stand, too. It does. So, I guess a little history lesson. I like to talk about this once in a while. Sir Robert Peel is considered the founding father of community policing, modern policing. Now, the interesting thing is Sir Robert Peel lived in the 1800s. And in about the early to mid 1800s, he said something along the lines of, the police are the public, and the public are the police. That means we're all in this together. And I have the great honor of serving as your police chief. And it's a blessing that I appreciate every day. And I've enjoyed serving as your police chief for the last 11 years. But we need help from you, and we need help from the public. We can't solve all of the problems facing our community when it comes to public safety by ourselves. We need help. And that means that the public has to work together with the police department with the best interests of public safety in mind. And I think I can safely say, in the 11 years that I've been your police chief, I've always come to you with sound ideas, and we don't come to you with a lot of projects or requests without putting a lot of time, thought, and effort into them. And we take these things very seriously. And we value the relationship that we have with the public, and we value the relationship that we have with the business community. These relationships are important to us. And so a few months ago, I asked Captain Jones and Lieutenant Stevenson to look at the pawnbroker code of ordinances. This is our current code that deals with pawnbrokers was written in 1991. I've been a police officer for 30 years in the state of Iowa. This ordinance was written before I was a police officer. Okay? It's old. It needs to be revised. We need help. And so Captain Jones and Lieutenant Stevenson looked at what other communities are doing. They looked at what technology is available to us, and they came up with a draft that's been presented to you. Okay? Burglary and theft is a problem in our community. I remember when I took this job 11 years ago, Gene Beach, the mayor, and Randy Wetmore, the city administrator at the time, directly told me as one of my priorities to figure out burglary and theft crimes. And we've been working very hard for the last 11 years to do that, and we've actually brought our numbers down. But it's still a problem, and it's something that we need help with. My cops can't be everywhere at once. I've mentioned to you a few times over the last few months, we answer over 800 calls for service a week. We are understaffed currently due to some vacancies, but I've made it very clear over the years, even when we're full staff, we're authorized for 42 police officers. I have worked for 50. I don't think you're going to be able to afford to give me 50 right now. So we're looking for ways to leverage technology, ordinances, and any other resource out there that will help us enhance public safety. And I strongly believe that what Captain Jones and Lieutenant Stevenson have put together is a step in the right direction to help us deal with burglary and theft crimes and enhance public safety in our community. Now, having said that, this is a draft. I think there's lots of room for discussion. I asked Captain Jones and Lieutenant Stevenson to proactively go to some businesses in our community that are impacted by this ordinance and talk to them about it and gather their ideas. And we had some really positive discussions, and we got some good information back. We did that because we believe in transparency. We did that because we value the input from the people that we serve in this community. We could have just shown up with an ordinance and had a discussion without that. I think that would have been a mistake. So I think there's room for discussion. I think there's room for input. That's why we're here tonight. And I know that there's some folks from the business community that would like to provide some input. And we look forward to the discussion, and we pledge to have some flexibility here. So we want to do what's best for the community, just like you do. So I will stop talking, and I will have Captain Jones come up, and he'll share some thoughts with you.
Good evening, Captain Jones, the Police Department. I'm in charge of patrol operations currently. Lieutenant Stevenson and I were tasked with taking a look at the current pond ordinance that had been on the books, just like Chief Tupper had said. I initially had started with looking at our current ordinance, which 100% involves a pawn shop, which in Marshalltown is a general store. Back when I started 27 years ago, we had more options for pawn within the community, but the general store typically is the only one that ordinance currently affects. For some time now, being in charge of both operations and the investigative division, we have began to build working relationships with area communities who also have similar problems with burglary and theft. The city of Marshalltown averages somewhere around 160, 170 burglaries a year, and we average reports of somewhere between 300 and 400 cases of theft. And many of those, whether they're solved or not, the recovery of that stolen property, which is extremely important to us, is difficult to do. And there's a lot of different options for people and that steal things from other people, whether they sell them online or they sell them at many of the businesses or some of the businesses that we're going to discuss today. Having those relationships and speaking with the pawn shop and then having an opportunity to speak with many of the representatives that are going to be here speaking with you today, I think almost all of them at some point had said that they've had some interaction at some level with people that they believed possibly had stolen property. When we developed this ordinance, I started with the current ordinance and the requirements that we are requiring the pawn shop to report and how they report on pawn property. Pawn property is essentially a loan. If you take an item, you can take it to the general store, you provide it to them, they give you a monetary amount, and during a certain amount of time you can come back and pay that loan back and get your property back. It's essentially like collateral, and minus a small fee. Ever since I've been involved in the police department, it's been very, very difficult for us to monitor those transactions. The general store has been exceptional in doing what they've needed to do as part of that ordinance and reporting those pawned items. Now, the general store also sells items, or they buy items for resale. And we did not have any record of those, and occasionally we have crimes where people go to the general store and find their stolen property, and we need to go into the general store, seize that property as part of the investigation, which is a negative, has a negative impact on the general store, which they lose that item that they had. Well, obviously, they can do some type of restitution if they choose, but a lot of the times they're out whatever they paid for that property. When we were looking at the current ordinance, we wanted to try to even the playing field. We wanted to make sure that everybody was being treated equally. And we were made those requirements just like the general store currently does, and looked at anybody that was in town that bought items for resale, tangible property. And when we were looking at that, there's a lot of different avenues, and there's a lot of different businesses that have different tasks, whether it's scrap, whether it's salvage yards, whether it's consignment, whether you're just generally purchasing property, and trying to uniform that policy to include everyone in the general benefit that if we recorded those items that were coming in, we would have a better opportunity to monitor those people that are trying to sell those items, and then possibly looking at returning property that may be stolen that have been reported to the police at any given time, whether it's a burglary or theft. I researched with other communities that currently have that system. One of them was Ames. The Des Moines area has it, Waterloo, Cedar Rapids, Dubuque, Davenport, and other communities have also had requirements at varying levels, similar to the one that has been drafted. I can honestly say the one that is drafted is a full service policy, and And we wanted to present the ideal policy to the council, possibly for revisions, and maybe working with a business leader and council members to come up with a revised version that fits the needs of the police department, but then also is a benefit to the city of Marshalltown. So during this policy, there's really 3 levels that we're looking to maintain through the ordinance. One of them is a license requirement. Right now, I think we received within the last week or so some concern that maybe Lieutenant Stevenson and I didn't get to all of the businesses that currently do secondhand sales, and that it's very possible. The police department in the city of Marshalltown has really no idea who would be doing certain acts, other than maybe we would have an idea that a junkyard does a junkyard. But we had some information that maybe there were some additional consignment businesses that we weren't aware of. So that licensing opportunity would provide the city of Marshalltown at least an idea of who in our community was doing secondhand sales at any level. The second part of it is a recording requirement, which means when they do when they do make a sale, or someone comes into their business to sell something, or use it as a consignment. And a consignment would be they would come in and a business would sell it for them, and they would split the essential profit for the merchandise. That we would have a record of what was purchased and sold. So we can match that with case reports that we have, and then maybe help solve an investigation and get that property back to the person that had reported it. The third requirement is to have that information added into a central database. We've been working with communities around us that have ongoing issues with other people in other communities committing theft and burglary and bringing those items to Marshalltown for sale, for profit, so they don't get caught in their own community. There is technology that's currently available. We have talked extensively with one organization currently that for the last 20 years has helped police departments create a centralized database of items that have been reported stolen, and it allows free service to business owners to download that information on a regular basis, where it would be in a centralized location where investigators could go in and go through and find property that may be reported stolen. Now, in our opinion, from the police department's opinion, this is a force multiplier. It puts all of that information all in one area. It allows us some unified effort across the community to try to combat theft, whether it's a deterrent or the actual ability for us to return property to other people. But like Chief Tupper said, a lot of the times it's difficult for us with staffing to be able to do those things. Another aspect of that is how do we possibly go to every business every time that something's sold, and the expectation that we would have staff go to each one of these places of business and say, these are the items that have been reported stolen. Have you seen any of these things? It just makes it a lot easier for our staff to be able to have one centralized location where we can both monitor things that are stolen. Anything that with a serial number, we automatically would get red flagged. In those, we would receive emails and information about things that were missing. The business that we are currently looking at is currently being used by the general store. They've been using it for some time. It is also in place at a phone kiosk in the mall. Lieutenant Stevenson and I went to the general store to speak with their owners about the process and whether it was seamless. They really had not necessarily any knowledge that it even existed. The software that the business uses takes that information. It automatically downloads it every day at the close of business, depending on the type of sale transactions they make and the type of software that the current business has. And it uploads all of that information so it's useful for us at a later date. Some of the concerns that have come up, obviously, are privacy. We're very, very concerned about that from the police department standpoint. I can say that the company that we are looking at doing business with has been in business for over 20 years, and there's tens of thousands of law enforcement agencies across the United States that are using that. They provided us a demo of some of the places that some of our items from our community have been used, and through this network we see people going all over the state, all over the country, selling and pawning items from residents of Marshalltown. Now, whether those are stolen items or they're actually legitimate items, those are things that would be open for us with our ability to be part of this network. And I think it's definitely something that will help us in our investigations, but then also make it a lot easier for officers to work with these victims of burglary and theft, and hopefully bring some remedy. So I know that theft and burglary, as Chief Tepper said, it's a quality of life concern here in our community. It does happen frequently, and we want to do everything that we can to get that property back. So, any questions of me reading the ordinance?
Is there
Go ahead.
items that you would consider low enough value that isn't worth going after?
Low enough value?
Low enough in value.
Well, and if you take a look at model policies throughout the state, there are varying degrees of value. Some people put a $25 minimum value, $50 minimum value. So, and there are communities that have done that. If you've ever had anything taken from you, it's difficult for me to say that there's a minimum expectation. So,
right.
It's kind of all up for interpretation. One of the things about taking a look at value is the amount of information that would need to be uploaded to the system or taken in account. And I definitely would understand that concern, but I don't have a finite number that I could give you that would be good.
Any other questions?
Your Honor,
Yes.
would it be possible for the council to reflect on public comment before offering directives or questions?
Sure.
I would entertain that.
Let's do that. Let's have some public comment on this. Yes, sir.
Hello there, John Blaybaum, doing business at 18 West Main, Marshalltown. I appreciate the fact that Mr. Jones, Captain Jones, came to me and other businesses to let us know a heads up. I freaked out. What he was telling me, we had a great conversation saying, this is not going to work for me. I appreciate what they're trying to do in stopping theft and finding stolen items. On my end, I'll just try to walk you through a quick transaction at the store. 2 months ago, I purchased a 1,300-piece record collection. It was used. It came from a family that was handed down. A spouse had died. So I'm supposed to take a picture of every album, list, and that's inside outside so we know what it looks like. List the artist, list the name of the album, and then upload all of this. So the amount of time that's going to take from me, I'm going to have to pay an extra employee or two just to do that, to upload it within 24 hours. And that doesn't mean I'm going to keep all these LPs or CDs or cassettes or whatever. I also consign items. I consign artwork. Paul Gregory is one of my consigners. I don't think he's a thief. I don't think he stole his stuff. But I got to upload all of that stuff according to this ordinance. I can't afford to pay that much to an employee. I am always looking for anything that may walk in the door stolen. It hasn't happened. In the 8 years I've been in retail downtown, it's never happened. Well, one exception. A kid came in, I knew he took it from his dad. I called his dad, he got it back, so that's it. The burden that it will cause for me is insurmountable. I can't do it, honest to goodness. There's no way. I don't like the fact that if I have a violation within this ordinance, that the city administrator is the person in charge of letting me know I violated it, and that could be anything. And the only person I can appeal it to is the city administrator. And they're the one that gets to say, well, your evidence wasn't good enough and you're out of business. You don't have a license. That's the way this reads. I don't like that aspect. I would think it would be a council-wide decision if we actually did it. Inspection of premises. I don't like giving up my Fourth Amendment right of unreasonable search and seizure. According to this ordinance, the police at any time during business hours can walk in my door and look at stuff, look at anything they want to determine, was it stolen, wasn't it stolen? Again, I'm happy to help the police, and I've done it over the years. I'm always there to do it. I've never had a report from the police, can you look for this? We've had this stolen, can you be on the lookout? That would help. I'm happy to help that way. There are so many things here within this ordinance that it's such a burden upon me as a businessman, I will not be open. I will close. It's that simple. Unless many things are changed or we just tweak what we have on the books a little bit more. That's what I got.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Retta Schmidt, and I own State Street Trading Company Consignment Boutique at 35 West State Street in Marshalltown. I would like to start by saying I wholeheartedly agree with everything that John has brought up, and I appreciate him working with me, kind of trying to talk through this ordinance here. The proposed ordinance, number 15044, as written, would be extremely harmful to me and my business, and to other local businesses that it would affect. If passed, the cost and inconvenience of these unreasonable requirements would make me rethink having a business in Marshalltown. This policy would require me to inventory, describe, photograph, and provide sale information for every single new consignment item in my store, every day, and upload it to the Marshalltown Police database, along with personal information of every consignor that comes to my store, and hold all inventory for 10 days prior to sale. This is an unreasonable request and impossible to comply with. It would require me to have an additional employee during all business hours just to collect and upload this information for the police. Also, my consignors would not be comfortable with their personal information being detailed to the police just to consign clothing. This would be perceived as a privacy violation and frankly a hassle to my consignors. So much so that as I've polled my consignors this past week after hearing and reading through this proposal, many of them said that they would stop consigning entirely. This ordinance is aimed at pawnbrokers, and junk dealers in an attempt to reduce the sale of stolen goods. I think everybody can agree we don't want to sell stolen goods. While the policy explicitly excludes other types of businesses, antique stores and such, consignment is still included. My business accepts new and lightly used women's clothing on consignment, where we offer the items for sale in store, then after the sale, the consignor receives a percentage, much like Captain Jones mentioned. We do not offer cash up front for any items brought in. There is a waiting period. In the 4.5 years I've been in business, not once have I ever been contacted by the Marshalltown Police Department over their concern that someone may try to sell something stolen through my business. It makes no sense to me why they would want full reign over all of my inventory, at a huge burden to me and my business, for something that has never been an issue. And I would like to state here, we did have a conversation when they came into my store, which I appreciate. It was great to have a heads up and be able to look through all of this. I have never had an issue with any type of stolen good, any type of even question about a stolen good. The main issue is things being stolen from me. I have sent you each an email detailing the exact issues I have with this ordinance, and I ask that you read that at your convenience. I ask that you reject this proposed ordinance as written. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else?
Yeah, Doug Gervich with M. Gervich and Sons here in town, and I do appreciate that the PD came by and kind of shared with me what they were looking at in terms of this online service, Leads Online. They wanted us to give them feedback. Appreciate all of that. Have a great deal of respect for Mike, the whole department, but I am opposed to the ordinance. Give you a few reasons, and I'll try to. Am I limited to 3 minutes on this part too? I can pick it up. Some of the comments just recently, and I will just comment on that, and then I'll get to my notes. Uploading all of this data to the cloud, to me, is much like a search warrant waiting for a crime to be committed. They can look at all of our data for no real reason. There's been no crime maybe committed, but it's open to everyone. And to that I object. But let me start with some of the bullet points in the ordinance itself. Junk dealer. I don't know if I have to say a whole lot about that. I think I might be thrown into that category, but that reference is 70 years old. We don't deal in junk. I don't buy onesies, twosies. I don't buy lamps. I don't buy clothes. I don't buy shoes. I don't buy screwdrivers. I'm a bulk commodity dealer. We buy 3 to 4 million pounds a month of scrap. Somebody calls and says, I've got a 356 Chevy block. I'll say, I don't know what that is, but if it's cast iron, I'll give you so much a ton. Or they will say, hey, I've got a combine, whatever the number is, or a harrow. I couldn't tell you if a harrow walked in here, or a cultivator. But I know iron and I know metal. That's what we buy. If somebody came in and said, hey, have you got a hub for a 2020 Chevy? I'd say, I don't know. We don't categorize it that way. It's scrap. Once it gets in our place, it's unprepared scrap. It's number 1 heavy melt, number 2 heavy melt, HB cast, which stands for heavy breakable cast, aluminum breakage. It doesn't pertain to any of the items in the ordinance. We're not junk dealers. 500,000 to 1 million pounds a week of scrap. I'll leave it at that. The internet tracking service. There is no way that I want all, okay, you walk into our scrapyard and most scrapyards, you can see our inventory, you can see our equipment, you can see how we process our scrap. You can't see, and never will, our supplier list or the prices we pay for it. And if the prices we pay for it, that is confidential information that Emerson would no way let us show or share with anyone. We buy scrap from probably an 80-mile radius. How far is Webster City? Whatever it is, a little bit beyond Webster City. That cannot be sent on the cloud, put to the cloud, uploaded to the cloud without control over it. That's my most confidential information. And I can't have it on the cloud, especially with a for-profit organization that has our data on that. What will they do with that data? Sell it, right? They say in their agreement that they're not responsible for any breach of security. Okay, so it's not maybe a breach of security, but what's to keep them from slicing, dicing, carving it up, and then marketing that? I'd pay a lot of money for what my competitor, the customer list, supplier list for our competitors, and particularly when I find out what they're paying for scrap. Advertising. What does that have to do with what any of us do? But let me just read this. A brief statement of the nature and character of the advertising done or proposed to be done in order to attract customers. Somebody's going to look over my shoulder to tell me whether my advertising, the money I'm spending with the TR, KFJB, or what have you, is not appropriate. A couple other comments. Retention of items, that's already been mentioned. Okay. It's called a tag and hold in our industry. You tag it, identify it, and then you have to hold it for up to 10 days. In our industry, our sales orders are canceled every month at the end of the month. I buy scrap on the 25th of January. I can't sell it or ship it till the 5th of February? No. And how do I tag it? I think I've told you how many pounds we buy a week. I would invite all of you to come down to the yard. I know, Gary, you've been there. Mike, you have to come in the yard and tell me how I tag that and then hold it for 10 days. At a minimum, we ship 40,000 pounds in just, that's the minimum amount we ship. In one vehicle. The maximum is 180 to 200,000 pounds in rail cars. When a rail car comes in, which isn't very often, I have to be ready to ship the material. I don't know where you could expect me to tag and hold 2 million pounds of metal. It just doesn't work. Besides the confidentiality of sharing our pricing and our supplier list. I have confidentiality agreements with many of the industries from whom we buy scrap. I can't even mention the industries because it's that confidential. Another item which I kind of shows that perhaps this for-profit organization isn't really that familiar with our industry, which bothers me a great deal. But listen to this. It shall be unlawful for any junk dealer or employee to junk any electric battery or other receptacle containing acid, except by emptying said acid in a pit in the ground in said lot, said pit to be of sufficient depth and width to prevent escape of said acid. Now, I'll tell you how we handle scrap batteries. We put them on a skid, a pallet. We put a layer of cardboard down. We put a layer of batteries. We put another layer of cardboard down, another layer of batteries, cardboard over the top, and we shrink wrap it. And that's what meets the guidelines for the battery reclaimers that we ship to. I would think you've all heard of Interstate Battery. Okay? They buy a lot of our batteries. They tell us how to package them, and we ship them to them. They pick them up. If we have 40,000 pounds, we make a sale, we don't pour it in the ground. God forbid, I would follow this kind of guideline. And, you know, we have discussions with EPA, we have discussions with DNR. That does not comply with any form of handling scrap or waste batteries. You can tell I'm kind of amped up, can't you? Yeah. So I guess what bothers me the most is that a for-profit organization business will have our most valuable and confidential data forever. We retained, I guess you could say, one of these nationwide organizations to handle our random drug testing for our drivers, probably about 6 years ago. 2 years after we retained them, they were gone. We tried to contact them because we hadn't heard anything. We're supposed to hear something quarterly. Which drivers do you want to randomly test? They were gone. Should that happen, where's our data? And how can I be at all confident that a for-profit organization is not going to take advantage of having this wealth of data that a lot of people would pay to get? So before you make any decisions, and I know there are probably several readings, but in the Iowa Code, look at section 714.27. It's 2 lines. If you'd like me to read it, I can do it here.
Sure.
Okay? The provisions of this section shall take precedence over and supersede any local ordinance adopted by a political subdivision that regulates scrap metal transactions. So state ordinance, state code right here supersedes and overrides local organizations that have to do with scrap metal. Why? So that it doesn't travel to, so it doesn't, I guess, give certain counties, certain jurisdictions, an advantage over other ones. No, it's all state law, blankets all of Iowa when it comes to buying, selling, and trading in scrap metal. One county has this big database. Well, who wants to go there? I don't, our customers don't want to be on a database because they sold 3 pounds of aluminum and got 80 cents. Go to another county, they don't have maybe the database, so sure, we'll go over there. I guess, do I ask for questions? Or do I just sit back down?
Does anyone have any questions? Good
And
explanation.
I would invite you to come down and see what we do. What you see from Nevada Street is not what you see inside the scrapyard. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
I'll be brief. John Hall with the Marshalltown Area Chamber of Commerce. I just want to kind of echo a few of the comments that were shared by some of our member businesses here this evening, as well as speak up for some of our member businesses who are unable to be here this evening. It looks like this ordinance puts a great deal of probably undue and unnecessary burden on many of our businesses. And I guess I would challenge the council to think about how we reverse the way that, what the police are trying to do is obviously very noble. We want to try and walk back as many thefts as we can and reclaim as many property thefts as we can. I think there's an opportunity to maybe reverse the way that this burdens our business owners, puts the onus on the police department to be the open communicators with our business community. It seems that there was a lot of positive relationships built during this process with the police going and visiting. And I'm not saying that every time there's stolen property they need to go and visit, but how do we work on bridging that communication and better elevating opportunities to reclaim that stolen property through an update to an ordinance rather than putting undue burden on our business community. So thank you.
I'm Lonnie Hoagland of Hoagland Auto Plaza. I have to say thank you to the officers for coming down the other day and trying to explain the idea. I was in a little bit of a hurry for another meeting that day, so I didn't get time to hear a lot of their stuff, but I got the gist of it, and I got the rest of it tonight. I can agree wholeheartedly with the comments that the other people have contested the idea with. I feel terrible that the police are getting a balloon, stick a needle in it, and shooting down their idea. I think we have a great relationship with all my departments, with the police department, whether it's the towing of could be a shady vehicle or my salvage department. I do a smaller factor of what the Gurvich Corporation does for our scrap metal. When we see something a little shady, we work with the police. We've been called by the police to go to Gurvich's when someone was selling headstone stuff. The police caught it with the help of M. Gurvich. They had the smarts to say, this doesn't look right. I think it's working pretty good. I like the idea that the police are trying to reach out the idea to get something that works better. But the privacy factor that we're killing it's not a good idea. I say let the police take the idea back home and play with it, come up with something that could be better. But I think it's fine like it is. I don't see that we could help them catch bad guys some way. It would put a black eye on us, brick and mortar recycling facilities. My late father said, what we deal in is all junk until somebody needs it, then it has value. It'd make people want to do business with black market people stuff. I believe July 1st, catalytic converters, this commodity, the high-priced exhaust piece on cars, is going to have a title. If someone wants to sell me that converter, I'm going to have to report the serial number to it so I can say that John Doe owned that car that the catalytic converter come off of, and it's truly not stolen, is what I've been told. It's coming soon. I need to look into that. And that the federal government is getting ready to put serial numbers on the catalytic converters. Stuff like that is what the government needs to deal with. I don't think this is going to help us in any way. It's just too intrusive. Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have anything else from the public?
My name is John Gurvich. I live here in town at 2501 Raycliffe Drive. I work with my father, Doug, at M. Gurvich & Sons here in town. And my dad and the rest of the business owners or leaders here today have really said most, if not all, of what needs said. But with respect to our operation, I can tell you there are already controls in place to limit, if not eliminate, the chance or the risk of buying stolen property or stolen scrap. We have much of the operation is on 24-hour surveillance, where we can provide time-stamped still shots or video if needed. We get driver's licenses or government-issued IDs from every customer. We get a signed cash receipt if they're paid cash, which is the state law for any value under $50 total for your scrap. Above $50, they are issued a check. All of our customers or anyone who sells us scrap has got to provide a photo ID of some sort. And then that all is kept on a hard drive that's kind of exclusively for managing that sort of information. All of that is we make fully available to law enforcement. We are eager to assist them in helping return stolen property and helping to convict a suspected thief. We are not in the business of stealing or wanting to at all manage stolen property. I grew up here. My parents raised us here. I have only known this business, this yard. Our mission, our whole point is to do things the right way. Offering this sort of information to a third-party for-profit organization feels a little bit misguided, apart from the fact that we're somewhat mischaracterized in this amendment. Like my dad said, we are a scrap metal processor for recycling, period. We don't sell individual items. If you were to bring in something, a handgun, a ring, it's not a handgun or a ring to us. It's all about the chemistry. We're in the business of buying pounds and tons, and that's it. With that said, we are sensitive to the challenges that the police department is facing. I've got nothing but respect for Captain Jones, Chief Tupper, and what they're trying to do in keeping this community safe. I can tell you we are nothing short of an active partner in helping them do that. That is our only interest. We are not here to take from the community. We are here to be part of the community. And I think all of us businesses here in Marshalltown deserve the benefit of the doubt that we will be willing and able and up to the challenge in providing the information needed to catch folks or to catch a crime in progress. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can, I'd just like to add a couple things. So, first of all, everybody that spoke here tonight, they're all solid businesses in our community. They have my respect. And Gervich, they've done a great job trying to help us with issues in the past. We respect what they're doing. We believe that this ordinance, as written, is written to protect our business community as much as it is to protect people that have been victim of crimes, okay? Because we think it'll deter people who commit crimes from going to any of our local businesses to sell stuff that they have stolen, okay? What Mr. Gervich didn't tell you is that when we met with him last week and he brought up the 10 days, I agreed with him. And I told him I think we have some flexibility there. I think we can make some changes. When he brought up the list of what he sells stuff for and he brought up the advertising, I agreed with him. And I told him I think we have some flexibility there. I think we can make some changes. Okay, so we have an open mind about all of this. But I think what we have to remember is that we don't know what we don't know. And we live in an increasingly smaller world, and the people that are stealing stuff in Marshalltown are going to Des Moines, Waterloo, Cedar Rapids, and the people that are stealing stuff in Des Moines are coming to Marshalltown selling stuff. And it's a network of thieves operating in central Iowa, and we need to use technology to our advantage to try to catch some of these folks so we can keep them out of our community and we can hold them responsible. And to your point about is there a way to, set a price mark of what we're interested in, what we're not interested in? We can do that. We're flexible to that. But have you ever had anything stolen from you? Have you ever had your car broken into? Okay? And maybe that item that is only valued at $25 means the world to you and you'd like to have it back. And it's in somebody's pawn shop somewhere. Or it's been sold in a consignment shop somewhere. Okay? Clothing gets stolen. A lot of items get stolen. And people are looking for easy places to go and sell this stuff to make a quick profit. So we're happy to answer any questions. We want to work with the business community. I think a lot of good ideas were brought up tonight. And I think that there are some changes that we can make to meet some of those concerns. So we'll take questions if you have any.
Thank you. Yes.
So I guess curious question on thief and burglary. I mean, do we have anything that breaks down what that looks like in our community as far as number of items that are less than 25 versus greater than 100 or anything else like that? I mean, to be able to demonstrate a split if you put a limit on it.
Yeah, through our records management system, we weren't able to pull up specific data like that. All I know is we have thousands of items a year that are reported missing, but we don't have any way to categorize that by value.
Do we do that at all by type of item?
No.
Your Honor, it just seems to me like maybe we have it upside down. I have major privacy concerns about this. Could we instead disseminate the public information and say a weekly digest email to all of these people of what's been stolen recently and to see if it triggers their mind, or, have a publicly available website where if they get in something odd that they could go and cross-reference the serial number, perhaps have a list of the usual suspects if they've been convicted of this in the past. I don't know if those systems are in place already because it sounds like at Gurbich they check IDs. I know they have, even though I know both of them. I took some scrap down there and I had to show my ID and everything just like anybody else. But could we just kind of reverse the process and disseminate the public information and keep the private information private?
And we do work with the businesses. We don't have anything set up like what you're saying. One of the aspects of looking at this ordinance was to unify our ability to treat everybody equally. And one of the discussions that we had with many of the business owners is, I'm not this kind of company, or I'm not this kind of company. Well, essentially they all came back to, well, we're not a pawn shop. And what we're looking at is the fact that we have an existing system that is currently working through what the general store currently does in maintaining those things. It is seamless according to them. And we were just looking at maybe that force multiplier of having the ability to work with other communities to return property and find those criminals and criminal networks that are coming into Marshalltown from other communities, which we wouldn't have an opportunity to do that. And that compounds the amount of thefts and burglaries throughout the area. And we work with the Ames Police Department, and regularly we get intel and information from the Des Moines area of people that are in this in our area. We've had catalytic converters stolen and junkyard thefts from people that lived in Des Moines, and these are all things where we're trying to work together with other agencies, where all of these agencies participate in this electronic network, and we're just trying to buy in, provide our information in reciprocity of getting information from them and hoping to be able to close our cases of the items that may be going to Newton or Grinnell or Tama or Waterloo to try to return that information. And as far as I know, the departments that are currently working with the system, it works for them. And instead of having a group of investigators that are doing these, they may assign one officer that reviews that information. I respect everybody's opinion in the discussions that we've had, and all the business owners that came tonight to have their discussions. And like I said, this is a work in progress. I'm not a business owner, and I definitely respect some of those concerns that they brought up, and we are flexible in some of the things that they had brought up. But in other terms, the whole, I guess, to encompass the entire policy, we just want to make sure that everybody's treated equally. We don't want any business to feel that they're being mistreated by the police department, because a lot of the times that comes towards us or the view of the city on the way that we're treating people. And We just wanted to make it uniform. And when I looked at this ordinance and developing this ordinance, it's the resale of items. You are purchasing property from a private citizen and for either resale or partial resale or commission resale. And that's what encompasses all the different types of businesses. So it's the core process that we're actually governing, not just that one specific area.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, you may.
I have several questions.
I figured.
So, Captain Jones.
Yes.
So, a couple things. Someone breaks into my house, and I had this conversation with Mr. Blaybaum and with Retta earlier today. Someone steals my John Denver album, which means a lot to me, but it's probably only worth $2, and they steal a pair of jeans. There's no identifying marks on those. I'm not going to get those back anyway. Because there's 3 million John Denver albums out there and 3 million pairs of jeans. So why would I want to burden a business to record those items coming in their store when you're not going to return those to me anyway if you find them?
Well, I guess it just depends. It depends on the timeliness of when the items are recovered. It depends on the investigation that the officer had conducted. There's a possibility you may get those items back. But, likely that's true. Part of the concern that we've had is the inconvenience. And I've been advised and did research with businesses that do work with this organization that collects the data, and they're willing for no cost to come in, and depending on the point of sale system that they have, to be able to upload that information really with little effort. Now, there is some effort, and I'm going to admit there is some effort if the way that the business is keeping track of the information doesn't meet the certain criteria, and the certain criteria is definitely up to the council on what we have listed. Like I said, it's a full encompassing policy, right? We're talking about pictures and detail and prices and those types of things. If those are things that we feel aren't necessary, and that we want to just say just a general description or a name and a general description, those are things that we definitely can work through with the policy, based on time and the efforts that the agencies would have to make. But all of that information is important to us, where we're not necessarily looking to specifically, maybe we open up the ability to look at a crime and further an investigation based on this information. Maybe it's not the smoking gun in every single case, but maybe that person did something somewhere else, and we have that name and information that we can work off to help build and maybe keep track of some of the people that might be doing those things.
Fair enough.
Here's where it's important, Councilman, is, okay, point taken. Your jeans and your John Denver album may not be unique to you. Okay, there could be a lot of other people that have that same album, but your item was sold to the record store by a known drug dealer and a person that we know is involved with burglary. That's a clue to us. And then we go back into your neighborhood and we find out that Jane Doe, who sold that item, was down the street from your house the night that the burglary took place. That's another clue. So we can start putting a case together. Otherwise, we wouldn't have that information.
Fair enough. And then my next question is, why are antique stores exempt from this?
Well, I think antique stores are exempt from the policy, and what I've seen in other policies I look at in drafting this one is because of the uniqueness of the item and the rarity of whether it's a painting or furniture or whatever would be sold at an antique store. That I guess the ability of it to not be like jeans or a John Denver album allows us just to go in and identify that property at an antique dealer. So it's just the amount of work. Now, I can encompass that into the policy, but I just saw in other policies that I reviewed that they were exempt, and mainly just because they're usually identifiable items.
And the reason I ask it, that's what I want too. Everything, like selling property, we talked about earlier, anything we do, I just want a level playing field for everybody. I don't think we have a true antique store in this town. I don't think, if you're going to have this policy, it's got to be everybody.
And I'm all on board.
Okay.
Like I said, that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Okay, so those are those are my questions. Now my comments, if I may, Your Honor.
Yes, you may.
I find it, and again, I applaud you guys. I mean, you guys are, don't get me wrong. but I don't want to burden small businesses in this town. We're trying to regrow. So I kind of got a kick out of the irony that the same week that we're touring this small business guy, this specialist from Ohio, is when you guys went and visited the stores and saying, hey, we're talking about this ordinance. So that concerns me in the sense that you brought an ordinance out that you know that you have some areas you're willing to give on. I wish you guys would have beta tested it or vetted it or tweaked it and bring us something, in my opinion, that we could actually vote on and enforce. I don't see how you're going to be able to enforce this. And the other thing is, I'm a true believer in root cause problem solving. Now, Chief Tupper answered that about the clues. I believe in if burglary and theft is a problem in Marshalltown, that's what we need to concentrate on, not some of this nickel and dime stuff, you know. But again, I take that, you know, for what Chief Tupper said. These are all clues, okay? And then the thing that really bothers me is several of the business owners that reached out to me this week, you know, you say, Chief said we value transparency and input from the business community. Several business owners told me this is the first time a police officer came in their business. Never came in to say, hey, what do you do? How do you know, what is it you're selling? What is it you're buying? You know, what can we do to help you be safe? The first time they saw a uniformed officer or a plainclothes officer in their store was, here's a new ordinance we're going to, you know, run past the council. That is the major concern for me. So, thank you, Your Honor.
Other comments?
I guess my only comment, need to determine a path forward here because we could probably go on a conversation for another hour. So I don't know what we want that to be, whether it be tagging some specific items in here that need to be addressed or major areas of concern, or what that looks like. If it's a discussion in the next meeting, we're not at a conclusion by any means on direction forward, whether it be for the business owners or for the police department. So
I think.
May I have a comment? Lee Botter, 401 Orchard Drive. As an insurance professional, I would give a recommendation for council to send it back, have a roundtable discussion, bring these awesome business people to the table to have the discussion, bring some insurance folks, not me, okay, but bring some other insurance folks to the table, come up with a workable solution.
My own opinion is to send it back and with the comments that the public has made here, incorporate some of those into the new policy. See if we can't do that, because each one of them brought up a really good issue, because all businesses are so different. I do have a problem with uploading things that are not stolen. You know, you're going to upload 99% of the stuff, that's a waste of time. If you're uploading everything that's in the store, to me, that's an issue. But I do think that we do need to send it back and have the police department look at maybe working at some of the issues that these people have brought up and see if we can't come to some type of compromise on it.
Wendy Reisinger, 507 Woodbury. One area, well, several small areas you guys haven't touched on trying to find stolen items. Garage sales, flea markets, swap meets. We have several garage sales around this town every week where stolen items easily sold.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I agree with your comments. I suggest that they take the feedback from our local business owners, and maybe City Administrator Kinzer can suggest a timeline for when this could be put on the agenda for further discussion.
I would truly leave that up to the police department, as it's going to depend upon their schedule.
Yeah, I think we can easily come back to you with some revised language. I think I'd want to have another discussion item. You know, in fairness, Councilman Thompson, when we come up with projects or ideas, it's difficult for us to go around to everybody individually, and so that's why we do it in a public forum like this, okay? And in fairness, I've personally been at Gervich's yard more than once. I've been with Lonnie Hoagland more than once. I've been in John Blaybaum's store more than once. So to say that police officers don't go to the businesses is not really fair either. So, and I think that there are some things that we can do to meet some of the concerns. But I would just like to point out that we're not reinventing the wheel here. This is an ordinance that is very similar to what other communities are doing. That doesn't mean it's right for Marshalltown. We'll fix it. We'll come up with something that is right for Marshalltown. But what we're trying to do is consistent with what other communities across the state are doing to try to address these issues. And we do watch social media for stolen property, but it's literally impossible for us to go to every garage sale and flea market and all that good stuff. So we'll do our best. But I would recommend that maybe first meeting in August, we come back to you with a new idea and we have another discussion, if that's fair.
That's fair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, moving on to our next discussion item, request for bids for property sales.
Yes, so we have two properties that two separate individuals have reached out to us on as their properties that are of specific interest to them in a way that they want to continue to grow the community and the taxable value of the community. And so I'm going to talk about these separately, especially since we do have some changes that I got feedback on for this property, 406 West Lynn Street. So this was a property that we acquired through the dangerous and dilapidated building program. We tore down the house and the garage, and we did this through a direct purchase through the owner on that one. What this document is basically putting out a request for bids with very specific requirements for the property. And so the end goal is that the property is not to be used to extend an adjacent property owner's lot, that it is basically requiring that something be built on the property in form of a residence. With 406 West Lynn specifically, I would like to make this one a little bit more specific in the sense of we do have the neighboring houses owned by the Friends of the Library, which are just down the block, and that this would be a partnership with them to move one of those houses to this lot. This is the only lot that we have close to them to help with that. Otherwise, eventually those houses will get torn down if they're not moved, and they've not been successful in having them moved just by offering them for sale for $1. So that would change this just a little bit, but as you can see, this is really asking for the intended use, asking for square footage stories, the cost that someone would be investing in this, as well as any local contractors or suppliers, and basically committing somebody that they have completed a project as defined by the bid documents on this property within 24 months of the transfer. So that's basically the bigger picture here. When we get to 503 Woodbury, I would propose that we would stay with this as it is. This one was one we picked up on a tax certificate that was outstanding at the county treasurer's office, and basically went through the process to clear things. Again, the purpose is to have something built on the property, no minimum bid price, but requiring certain things to happen in terms of, if a driveway is installed, and that the public sidewalk be reinstalled per code, which would be required as part of the building permit as well. That was also a requirement on the other one. This one, I think we're looking at new construction, so I would recommend keeping the form the same. So this is really trying to look at a process whereby we are stating what we want out of this, which does take into consideration factors allowed under our policy, which include future use as well as taxable value, and that's what we're looking at through this, rather than it being an extension of somebody's yard, where the maximum value we would see is potentially a garage addition, which is not the the highest and best use of a residential lot that is buildable. So I'm looking for feedback. I would like to get these issued. I don't know if the timelines I have in there are realistic at this point in terms of actually having something turned in and ready to go on the July 11th agenda. I think that's a conversation I still need to have, but I did want to get this before you tonight for your conversation and discussion, and to see if this is a process that is of interest to you.
I myself like the idea. It's great to get infill housing. You know, we keep looking at that, and I think this is a good idea to get those type of things done. Get some of those lots filled up with houses again. So, any other questions or comments?
I also think it's a good idea. Do you need a motion or anything from us?
Yeah, I would like a motion to direct that I get these 2 properties out to bid with the process that is proposed.
I'd make that motion, Your Honor.
Okay. Have a second?
Second. Your Honor, if I may?
Yes, you may.
I, on the other hand, hate this idea. To me, this is a form of redlining that used to exist in this country. If 2 people are proposing the same build, then how is that decision made? And also, how many different policies do we need to sell city property? We have a sealed bid process. We have fair market value process. We have an out-of-town appraiser process after tonight. And now we get to choose who gets the property to build on. This just isn't right, guys. I mean, this is, we own the property, we just sell it. You know, we don't pick and choose. This is the senior citizen center all over again. And, you know, before this policy even existed. This is, I don't know how else to describe this. This is redlining. This is putting too much power into the city administrator to decide who gets to build in this town. And trust me, I've been advocating infill development all the time, but I can't tell my neighbor what to do with the property they own. So I'm totally against this process. Thank you.
Just to clarify, this is something that is allowed in our policy. As you'll recall, the policy on the disposal of surplus property provided multiple options for what we could do, because we are not in a situation where one size fits all. That just isn't what we have here, especially when you think about what is an alley versus a buildable lot. Quite frankly, the comment about this is putting more power into my hands, the council is ultimately who decides this. Those bid documents say the council can reject all bids. Ultimately, you are the ones that set the public hearings on the sale of property, and you are the ones that determine to sell property. This just gives me a path forward in conversation with the council to be able to put together a process to dispose of a physical asset that we have. This creates more work for me. It doesn't give me power in any sort of way. It gives me a way to help the public and to help individuals try and find a way to find a solution that might be suitable for them, but it does not put any power in my hands, and that's not what the policy was meant for.
We are going to agree to disagree. You're the one that brought forth the resolution with all those options. Wasn't us that brought that forward, you did. You know, we should have stayed with just a bid process. I voted no against that when we did. So if we're making the record straight, let's keep it straight.
And let's just keep the record straight by saying there was legal review of that policy. The way that we had been doing things by selling of alleys for $1 was not legal. And so quite frankly, the process that you wanted to keep using and had expressed to me to keep using was not one that we could continue to use, knowing that it was an illegal process. So we have a policy that the council has adopted. If you'd like to review it, we can certainly place it as a future discussion item.
Call to question, Your Honor.
Yes. Okay. So, ready for roll?
Lottie
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Thompson.
No.
Walker.
Yes.
Hoop. Isom.
Yes.
Kell.
Yes.
Okay, our final discussion item is funding for the splash pad design.
Yes, I think I have Jeff Hubbard here as well, who can certainly talk with this, as he has been the one who has been doing a lot of research. But I'll blow up this graphic here so that you can see what we're talking about. Through some assistance with Councilmember Lottie Hoff, we've had some discussions with the YMCA about where would be that location for a splash pad, which does have $500,000 budgeted in the capital improvement plan in fiscal year 23 from general obligation bonds. So we think that this is the best location because of its proximity to a number of assets, which you can see on the map, but also from the trail as well as nearby parking assets as well. This is also a very great location. One of the things that has always kind of been a staffing hurdle as we've thought about a splash pad is that a certified pool operator is required to do the chemical testing on a daily basis for that. Where do we have a certified pool operator? At the Aquatic Center. So trying to keep our people who are in short demand in one location to do the same job is how we'd like to proceed. So one of the things that we are ready to proceed with at this point is we need to get an initial design, and we need to get an initial cost estimate as we come up on coming to you probably in September, probably as late as October, with here is what we are proposing for our general obligation borrowing. I think we put in $500,000 as an estimate, but I truly think this is at least $1 million project, if not more. And with the way the markets are changing and construction projects are constantly changing, we could be on the more side of $1 million. And so I think we need to have a fair conversation about what is possible to fundraise versus what is possible for the city to bring forward in a general obligation bond. And that first step is really getting a request for proposal out the door to try and get a consultant on board who would be doing a preliminary design as well as a cost estimate, with the intentions that we would do a change order to that agreement if the council is satisfied with that work, to actually put together the plans and specifications that would go out to bid when we reach that step. And so we're here before you tonight asking if the council would dedicate $50,000 of advance funding from the 2022 GO borrowing so that we can start that preliminary design and cost estimate process.
Your Honor, would this cost include multiple courses of action, like different design types with different costs associated, so we could consider those? Or what does this advance funding provide us in terms of the plan that gets brought back?
So I would say this $50,000 would provide 2 initial design concepts for a steering committee to choose from. We can compose that steering committee however you would like, and basically that would be the starting point, but that it's not going to, if we wanted more than 2 design concepts, we'd probably need to do more than $50,000. However, I think that, you know, we can put forward a lot of information in our request for proposal document, which will hopefully help in getting this. One of the other things in working with the Arts and Culture Alliance is the request to have an artist partner as part of a team that would be bidding on this work and providing that proposal, knowing that that artist partner would be tied into that design as well.
So if we already have a steering committee and we have a healthy line for them to be able to communicate towards the plan and getting this designed, then I would go forward with a motion to move forward with the $50,000 of advance funding to get this planning underway.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments from the council?
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes.
I can't vote for this in good conscience, using taxpayers' money to build a facility on someone else's property.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I got a question or a comment.
Okay.
I would have trouble saying yes based solely on location.
Okay.
There's got to be somewhere further away that you spread the 2 facilities out and give other people in another part of town access to a facility.
Fair enough.
Lee Botter, 401 Orchard Drive. Those that have been around a while know me as the face of Splice for Life. So I want to give you just a little bit of history on that. 10 years ago, this week, we were grieving Andreas, who lost his life while playing at the Center Street, down Center Street Dam. A few days later, on July 4th, the unthinkable happened to our community. We lost 3 more precious babies. Lee, Say, and Tay to the Iowa River while fishing and playing with their family. That happened to be the first year that Chief Tepper was here. I don't know if you're still here, Chief.
I'm here.
You're here. I remember the grief in your face that day. I remember the tears that we all shed that day. You didn't really know me then, but I do remember sitting in Riverview Park sobbing for those moms and those families. I didn't know the kids, didn't know the children, but their deaths changed my life forever. Misty Smith and I were the original co-founders of Splash for Life. The number 4 means those 4 children. We had to cry out to build a splash pad for Marshalltown at that time, and we've worked on it for 10 years. We've had a lot of uphill battles. It kind of reminds me of going uphill in that snowstorm all the time. Although Misty stepped down for family reasons, Anna Wolver stepped up to take her place. Sometimes Anna and I don't agree on things. That happens, okay? But our mission has been one, to promote the education and health, safe and fun outdoor water activities for residents of Marshalltown and the surrounding communities. The design that we worked with Vortex on, and I'm not saying Vortex has to be the vendor, but the things that we've worked on over the years were to bypass all socioeconomic factors, faith, age, abilities, and cultures. We want everyone to have fun. We want that grandparent to take that toddler, to take that baby out to the splash pad, even if they're in their wheelchair. So we want it to be an all-inclusive. When we started this process years ago, from a location standpoint, we targeted Anson Park. The rationale for that was a historical lesson. We wanted to incorporate art into this, history, math. There's so many cool things that kids learn from splash pads. I will tell you, thank you, Councilman Lottie Hoff. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Council as a whole. Because these horrific memories, they still haunt me daily. Mike's been in my office. You've seen my vision board. Do I not have a big splash pad there? That's going to stay there until we get this thing built. I encourage you, this is not just a destination feature. It's not just an economic feature for Marshalltown. But it literally is saving lives. It will save lives. We walked the path last night along the river to see where the signage was that we paid for. And it's there. There's 4 signs there. I did see a Laotian child fishing in the river, and he was hanging in a hammock that was hanging over the river. And it was all Mark could do to hold me back from not going down and grabbing that kid and pulling him up the bank, because my first thought that went through my head is, oh my gosh, that kid's going to fall in the river and drown. We don't want any more drownings in this city. So let's all work together as a team to prevent those. And thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Anna Wolvers, 4th Ward, 2nd Precinct, whatever. I don't give my address for safety reasons. And I was going to speak personally so as not to be a conflict of interest with the board. But since it's been called out, those that know me, this is my binder of 8 years of city council meetings, learning the process to get this done, and notes from us requesting to pay for signage August 18th, 2017, also resubmitted February 1st, 2018, to prevent drownings. I mean, when I walk my kids and my dogs around the ponds, there's no swimming signs that are universal. Why do we not have it along a river where lives have been dead? I miss the signage on the trail because of the new trail addition.
Anna.
Yes.
This is about the splash pad.
Yes.
Let's stick to subject, please.
But this also goes to the grant funding that does Wayward signage and our cause to get this. So anyways, I think universal no swimming signs would go well with your grant
Anna?
that you're proposing. And
Anna, please. We're talking about splash pad. We'll have public comments here in just a minute.
Okay, I'll get to that. So on to the splash pad. I do not think this proposed location is best. As a former teacher of 14 years, safety is a concern. There's a railroad crossing very close to it. You also have issues with kids being out of control at your skate park close by. Teaching those with disabilities, it is not accessible. I've taken my tutoring and daycare kids. There is no parking there on spring break. We had to go across the street, 4 lanes of traffic to get to the bathroom because they're still closed. And I don't necessarily think it has to be a destination. We've been told for these 10 years we don't have funding for it, and now we're doing 4 times bigger in a broken economy. We just want functional, affordable, and accessible for all. And I do think a better location that has more parking, accessibility. There's towns all over Wisconsin and Des Moines that have multiple splash pads. I'm sure they have city traffic that goes and tests their water too. And I have heard from the public that it's too close to the paying facility that's already bankrupt, and how do you tell who's going for which one? So I personally am all for a splash pad. I want this project to be finished, but I am not a fan and do not think this location is the best. And I will have more for public comment.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table.
Point of clarification, is the splash pad Splash for Life funded?
No. It is city funded.
No, it is not. Thank you.
So I have a motion to have that brought back to city council.
Yes, I would propose bringing it back on our resolution at the July 11th meeting, since it is asking for the advanced expenditure of funds.
Do you need a roll call for that?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Oh,
Okay. Now we're down to public comment. Members of the public may make comments on any item which was not on the agenda during this time. The speaker shall approach the microphone and state his or her name and address. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes, unless a longer comment is authorized by the mayor. The speaker shall direct comments to the mayor and the council as a whole. The mayor and councilors shall not engage in discussion or debate on items raised by members of the public, and no action may be taken on items raised in public comments in order to comply with open meetings laws. With that, we're open for public comments.
All right, Anna Wolvers again. And as I already mentioned, I do daycare and tutoring, so I may not be able to attend future meetings, but things that have been discussed that I want to talk about while I'm here before I go water walk at the public facility. I've said before at city council meetings before this council that we need radar signs to be along South 3rd Avenue day and night between Anson, the high school, and Hoagland for sure. Very few, if ever, go the posted 25 miles per hour. It's very dangerous. So yes, we need help in making roads safer. I do also think it's a perceived conflict of interest in public tax funds to give $900,000 to Trails Inc. when that nonprofit's president is on the council. We've been told no money for almost 10 years for the splash pad project. Our roads are in desperate need of more help, so that money could be spent better elsewhere, as proven in the drone videos posted in the outreach group today, trying to find somebody's other drone. The roads stick out like a broken mirror. I would also propose no to the tree/compost tax, and the reason why is we as a city are already overtaxed. I've showed this before, but not to this current council. This ended in 2020. I'm sure it's even worse in 2022. So the red is our current city taxes and the blue is our city income. We cannot afford more taxes. Also, I did a quick Google search, or a brave search because Google tracks you. Hoagland and Anson make the state's top list for top free and reduced recipients, with 76% of each of those buildings not being able to afford necessities like food for their kids. So this is why more people are leaving here, because they can't even afford their basic necessities, let alone more increased tax to get rid of trees and waste. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Lonnie Hoagland again from 909 Stegman and Hoagland Auto Plaza. As I was reading the packet on the salvage stuff earlier, I noticed it talked about the definition of scrap yards and such. I thought maybe the city council was going to be reviewing scrap yards and junky looking vehicles in people's yards. I'm still saying, I've worked with the police chief and all of you guys saying you need to work on curb appeal and ordinances so the police can do something to clean up, and even dumpsters in people's yard. Get an ordinance that's enforceable by the police. It talks about 6 vehicles, considers it a junkyard, but there's places with more than 6, so make it enforceable for the police, please.
Thank you.
And dumpsters and all.
Anything else?
Good evening, John Hall with the Marshalltown Area Chamber of Commerce. Just want to leave with a bit of positivity at the end of this meeting. I clicked. I messed up. Bit of positivity at the end of this meeting. So I do want to. Councilman Thompson brought up earlier that we had a group from Small Nation from Bellefontaine, Ohio, here last week. They did a full day of downtown tours as part of their consultation, and then capped it by being our keynote speaker for our annual event. I do want to thank Councilman Kell. The mayor was able to be there. Jessica and Michelle were able to be there for the day as well. I think the conversations that we were able to have with a lot of our building owners, business owners, and folks investing in our downtown were phenomenal. There's already been a tremendous amount of interest in conversations that have kind of sparked out of that. I know that Jason, who's the CEO of Small Nation, and Nick Davis, who was with him from Small Nation, both raved about how much further ahead we are here in Marshalltown than they were when they started in Bellefontaine. And just to kind of show a little bit of the parallels between the communities. So they are a town of 19,000 and a county of 46,000, so a little bit smaller than us. But in 2008, I think they had a very devastating ice storm, which wrecked many of their downtown buildings. And then in 2012, they actually suffered a derecho at a time when nobody had heard of derecho in Ohio. And so the parallels from disaster with our community are pretty stark. They also sit about 60 miles outside of Columbus, so they sit an hour away from their capital city and have figured out how to make themselves a destination downtown. So I'm really excited by the conversations that were sparked there. I'm actually was going to be in Ohio for a different reason, but I'm altering my trip a little bit to allow me to go to Bellefontaine, see a little bit more of the progress that they've made and takeaways that we may have. And we may be exploring trying to do a reciprocated visit to Bellefontaine with some community leaders again, maybe later this fall or early next year. So I just want to say that we had some outsiders in our community. They had a really great experience. They shared a lot of really great ideas, and I think the conversations were all really incredible and very excellent. So thank you all.
Okay. Anything else? Anything from the council? Okay, we're going into closed session. Would someone like to make the motion to go into closed session?
So moved, Your Honor.
I'll second.
Okay, closed session. We are going into closed session pursuant to Section 21, subsection 1, paragraph J of the Code of Iowa to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate where only premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price of the government property, would have to pay for the property or reduce the price of governmental body would receive for that property.